So let's talk about the first quality that I have brought up, mind-body orientation. What does this exactly mean? Well, um, as you're watching, you can actually determine which group you go into, the coin toss, the measurement, very simply. Um, uh, if you simply monitor your reaction to the speed at which I talk, you don't have to know it, but if you just monitor your reaction, um, you will fall into one of two groups. So if I talk this quickly and try and get this much material across and you don't go blank and you're able to keep up with me, you're likely in the mind first group. By that I mean that you are more comfortable with a quicker paced presentation, talking, etc., and words. You follow words rather easily, and you prefer that. Now, if you are in the mind first group, if you are mind first as a quality in your personality, and I slow down how I speak, this will have felt very uncomfortable for you. And it's an odd thing. Um, uh, People don't realize that they have this reaction and that some people will have the opposite reaction. So, the body first group, the group of people who first process life through their body, have the opposite reaction. So, if I talk at a moderate speed, such as this, they can hear and experience the words more personally. However, if I speed up and I talk this quickly and I try and get across information in this way, they react to the sped up words similarly to the way that mind first people react to the slowed down words. For mind first people, more words quicker up to a point is more comfortable. For body first people, it's uncomfortable. And the opposite also exists. For people who are body first, they prefer words that are spoken at a moderate pace. And when somebody speeds up their words, they can lose their attention, their ability to focus, and their minds can go blank. So, mind first, more words quickly. Body first, fewer words slowly. What is this coming from? Well, to begin with, there is a metaphor that describes this experience, this tipping point between the two groups in personality, two kinds of personality. And the metaphor involves radio stations and their broadcast frequency. So let's say that we have two radio stations. One is 93.5 and the other is 106.7. Now, obviously, the number, the broadcast frequency, how quickly the pieces are broadcast, is higher in the higher number. It's a quicker broadcast as far as the frequency. That's what frequency means. How frequently is a piece of this broadcast. So, the higher number is faster, literally, as far as the frequency at which it's broadcast. Here's the question. Does the content of the radio station with the higher number indicate that the material being broadcast is more intelligent, smarter? Does the lower number indicate that the material that's being broadcast on the station is for people who are less intelligent? Obviously, this is not true. Radio station frequency has nothing to do with how intelligent or not a person or the content or the people who are on or listening to that station are. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It simply has to do with speed. Okay, Well, how does this relate to mind and body orientation? Well, the people who are mind first tend to process life more quickly. And so they are, in a sense, like the radio station with the higher number. And the world mistakenly believes that the people who process more words more quickly are more intelligent. The world also believes that the people who need more time to process words are less intelligent. How does this break out? Well, let's take the subjects in education in school. Generally, the bias is pretty across the board, and so subjects wherein many words are used quickly, a lot of words and spoken quickly, the more quickly that you understand the words, you're deemed to be more intelligent. Wow, look how quick they are. Look how bright they are. Really. On the other hand, the people who are seen as needing more time or need to hear it again or need the teacher to slow down are seen as less intelligent. But what topics does this include? Well, it turns out that the topics that Mind First people favor are those with a lot of words. So English, social studies, things like that, science, things that require quick processing. What are the kinds of things that Body First people prefer? The things that are demeaned by society as unnecessary or only auxiliary. And what are those things? Dance, music, art, drawing, all of the sculpture, trades that you use your hands with. All of these things are seen as less valuable, less intelligent, and the truth is that those things are seen that way simply because of this bias about mind-body orientation. The more quickly you process words, the smarter you're seen. The slower you process words, the less intelligent that you are seen as. So, here we see the bias plays out. Say somebody is in high school and they go to their parents and they say, I want to be a musician. Well, okay, of course, many, not all, but many families would say, look, you can't make a living from that. There's actually some truth to it, because unless you are an extraordinary musician, the world sees you as less than. You're lacking. There's something wrong with you. But of course, if you are say to your family, I want to be a mathematician or a biologist or a doctor or a lawyer, and you are an average intelligence, your family is not going to say to you, well, you're probably not going to make any money at that, you're probably not going to make a living from that, etc. They would encourage them to do that. So the amount of money that we pay for people in certain careers is directly related to whether the career is best occupied by mind first or body first people. Mind first people, they're paid more. Body first people, they're paid less. So intelligence is rated this way, and value in society is rated this way. And of course there are exceptions. You know, somebody who is an outstanding athlete, they get paid quite a lot of money. They can anyway. But still, they are not, their opinions are not seen as intelligent or as valuable, with few exceptions, as people who may be a doctor, you know, or a psychiatrist, or somebody who, where in their profession uses a lot of words and a lot of technical words. Okay. How does this play out with regular people, though? Okay, so yes, it plays out in school, and if your child is body first, you can bet they are going to be told they need medication, and they are going to be you're going to be told that they have ADD or ADHD. Oh, but isn't that something wrong with them? Isn't that a condition that needs to be corrected? Actually, it's not. And this is revealed only when you grasp the idea of mind first and body first, and that it isn't simply something that is learned. Okay, to begin with, my discovery of this pair of opposites came after a day wherein I saw two different women, and I saw that they were in fact opposites. So the first woman is a relatively famous classical musician. And so there are 7 billion people in the world, and she's probably in the top 10 on her instrument, so quite accomplished. But on this particular day, she comes in and she says to me, "I need your help." With what? Well, I had a conductor who conducted quite a bit more quickly than my usual conductor, and I had trouble keeping up. And so this seems hard to believe. How could she, this very accomplished, famous classical musician, have trouble keeping up? So I wanted to see for myself what that meant. And so I said to her, I'd like you to sing the melody that you would play with your instrument, and at the same time keep time by tapping your hand on your leg. Okay, and so I looked at this, and the woman could not do it. She could sing the melody, but as soon as she tried to tap with her hand, she couldn't keep time. It was really odd, and I did not understand what it meant at first. Later that day, another woman came, and similar age actually, but in this case, this woman had been given over the course of her lifetime many diagnoses related to something like ADD or ADHD, and she in fact saw herself as very bad at school and not very intelligent and not good at learning, etc. The first person saw herself as very intelligent and capable of learning just about anything. Okay, so here's the second woman, and in her session, I was trying to show her something, and as I do in many sessions, I got out a pad and I tried to draw for her the idea that I was saying, a representation. At some point, she interrupted me as I was drawing, and she said, "Oh, look at that. Your hand can't keep up with your words." So I was speaking and drawing at the same time, and she noted that my hand could not keep up with the pace of my words. I thought about this, and I thought about it that night when I went home, and I thought about it for days, and I realized that this is a representation of something that I had read about, although in a completely different arena. I had read a book about what is titled The Second Brain by a Dr. Gerson. And I was very interested in this book because his book made, with solid science, made a very clear case for that. There is a second functioning brain in our bodies in the lining of the esophagus, diaphragm, and small intestine. And of course, it's not the kind of brain that's in our craniums, which is a ball of nerves, all kinds of cells and receptor sites and neurotransmitters and so on. However, all of the neurotransmitters and those cells and all the material that's in the brain and the head happen to be the same exact material as in the brain, which he called the brain in the gut. And so in the lining, as I said, of the esophagus, diaphragm, and small intestine. The same. In fact, he said something that really stuck with me. He said that the majority of the serotonin, one of the principal neurotransmitters in our brains, the majority of the serotonin is made and used in the gut, something between 70 and 90%. And I thought, wow. So what about those SSRIs that are changing how our bodies process or believe or react to the amount of serotonin in us? They fool our bodies into thinking there's more. Is the Prozac and the Paxil and the Zoloft and so on, is it actually working in our guts? And based on the amount of cells, it is. Anyway, this is a lengthy topic and a somewhat controversial topic, but actually were you to read the book, it's very solid science. There's no conjecture, really. It's really very solidly backed up. But the point is that when I change the speed at which I talk, it's a tipping point between the gut and the head. And the speed shifts which brain experiences what I'm saying. If I talk very rapidly, it moves up to the brain and away from the body. If I speak slowly, if I slow down, then it moves toward the gut and away from the mind. If I talk really slowly, it will move so completely into the body that the mind will, in essence, be blocked. If I talk very rapidly like this and I try and get across some technical material, during the time that people try and keep up with those words, the body is essentially blocked. Now think about what this means, besides the prejudice in education and about people in general, about intelligence and how much we pay people in their careers. There's also the simple idea that many, many, many relationships involve one of each kind of person. A mind-first person and a body-first person. And the mind-first person is knowable when they aren't understood, they speak more words more quickly. The other person, if they're body-first, understands even less. The more words that are spoken and the faster that they are spoken, the less the person understands. But a mind-first person, this is the way that they roll. It's simply that direction. If some words are good, more words are better. If relatively quickly spoken words are good, faster words are better. Okay, mind first. So the body first person, their mind goes blank because this is outside of the broadcast frequency that they broadcast and receive on. So they're getting nothing. What does it get interpreted as? Well, because we live in a world where we focus on, what's wrong with things first, and then we use our logical mind to try and explain and resolve those things. When a mind-first person tries to talk and the body-first person, it exceeds their capacity to keep up with the words, they frequently say, "You don't want to talk to me. Why won't you talk to me? You never want to talk. You don't want to talk this out. You're not doing your share in the relationship." Ha! That's not true at all. So, I have sat with many, many, many couples wherein there is one of each, a mind-first person and a body-first person. And in every case, the mind-first person sees themselves as trying harder, doing more to make the relationship work, etc., and sees the body-first person, who becomes wordless, as somebody who is avoiding the relationship, not doing their share, backing out. This is completely untrue. Now, this is only with regard to this quality, but this happens to be the first quality in human nature, measurable quality, the first. And everything that comes after this, even your own thoughts, which are largely words, even your own thoughts are sent through this dividing process, where either you are able to better process the words quickly, or the experience in your body slowly. And the words themselves become physical the slower that you say the words. Okay. Many, many, many things besides this idea about relationships. Consider how it is in a classroom. Say the teacher has 25 kids, and say the teacher is mind first. Most of the intelligent topics, say the class is in politics. Most of those type of topics are taught by teachers who are mind first. Most, not all. And so they speak rather quickly compared to what the body first children understand. And so much of the time, those body first children have adapted to, they're not going to follow, they're not going to understand. They've come to believe they're less intelligent because their minds go blank, they can't follow the words, and they just zone out. They're not zoning out because they're choosing, and they're not zoning out because they're less intelligent. They're zoning out because the source of the information is coming at them with too many words too quickly. Where's my evidence for this? Well, partially, as I've already demonstrated, people can be divided and measured immediately by slow talking, by saying some words very rapidly, and then having the person test their comfort level as you speak more quickly, and then slowing down and really slowing down and seeing whether the person is more comfortable or less. Okay, so that's one way of seeing this. But another evidence happens to be the remedy, the so-called remedy for ADHD, ADD. And so what is the remedy for ADHD? Well, it is to take a medicine which speeds up the body. And so as you speed up the body, the difference between the mind's rate of processing and the body's rate of processing, they become synchronized at some point. And so that medication, which speeds up the person's body, enables the body-first person to kind of keep up with the speed of a mind-first teacher. The mind-first kids don't need this because that broadcast is on their radio station. 106.7, the teacher's broadcasting, and their radios are set to 106.7. They lock right in. But those kids with ADD, the body-first kids, nope. They can't because their radio stations are set to receive at 93.5. Again, nothing to do with how intelligent they are or how intelligent the content is. It's simply they can't receive if it's at the wrong frequency. And taking amphetamines or Ritalin and so on speeds up the body in such a way that the kids now can keep up with the words. Okay. Isn't that a solution? Not really, not if you are body first and the whole world treats you like you're dumb. Your self-worth goes down, you get paid less over the course of your life, your wife or husband says you don't try in your relationship. Wow. All of this from a single quality, which is a tipping point based quality, in human nature, which no one has noticed previously. And even me, I am almost 70, and I only noticed this quality a little less than 15 years ago. Since then, I have been experimenting with this, and every time that I sit with somebody who is body first, adults, whatever the age, but many adults, their whole lives they have believed that they are dumb, and their spouse or their boss or whoever is smarter. And yet, when I explain this idea of body first and mind first, and then I do slow talk, and then they can understand me, many, many times they break down and cry. They have had a whole life of prejudice against them. In the same way, when I discovered this, and after that day with those two women, and I really realized what was happening, and I put it together with Dr. Gerson's work on the physiology of the body, I cried with shame and embarrassment because I had believed those same wrong-headed ideas about that the more words you use, the faster you use them, the smarter you are. And that I had been treating body-first people as if they were less intelligent, and they are not. They're not at all. When I realized this, I came back to a memory of a man who used to be in my friend group when I was a young adult, and the man stuttered. And it would be a discussion group. And when he stuttered, it would make everybody in the room crazy. I didn't understand. And people would say, they would want to say, speed up. And basically we didn't do that, but that's what was happening. But something very ironic happened with that man. When I would try to go at the pace that he was speaking, because it would take him extra time to speak, when I would go at that pace, and if I would try to follow him, almost always, at the end of what he was saying, I would go, wow, I didn't see that coming, but it was so intelligent. Now I look back and I realize that perhaps this mind-body orientation is a factor, perhaps the main factor, in stuttering. perhaps the mind and the body are so unable to sync up speed-wise that there's a problem. And there is some evidence for this. And what is the evidence? Well, the evidence is that strangely, when people who stutter are simply asked a question, and a simple thing like their name, if they get stuck, there's nothing they can do. But if they sing the thing that they are wanting to say, they can do it fine. Now go back to what I said about the division of occupations. So musicians, dancers, painters, sculptors, all these kinds of things are physical. They're more physical. And so the person's body directly connects and goes at the speed. The hands go much slower than the mind as far as words. And so it becomes obvious that this is what's really going on. Okay, so we are almost out of time, and this has been a lengthy discussion. But so the first quality, a brief review, the first quality in human nature to see is mind-body orientation. And it is a pair of opposites, mind first and body first. And that essentially means that you process life first through your mind and only sometimes later through your body, or first through your body and only sometimes later through your mind. Things like, even like overeating. Most people who overeat are mind first, not always, because there are counter preferences and sometimes a person flips temporarily, but basically mind first people determine what they want to eat based on something called health, which is an idea. Body first people, because I've asked them, they determine what they eat and how much they eat based on how it tastes and how much of that taste they've had. A completely different way of doing it. In any event, we'll talk more about this later when we continue our discussion of personality and how to measure it.